to You by Puffin.
The Mythmakers, written and read by Tamzin Merchant. Prologue. The Romans first invaded Britannia in AD 43. They stayed for nearly 400 years. They tried to conquer the rebellious spirit of the land and its people. They tried to shut out the wild, building a great wall in the north, stretching from sea to sea. They tried to capture the magic that thrummed in every pebble and tree and creature. For in that time, Britannia was a magical place. They searched for the source of this magic from coast to coast, but in 400 years, no Roman general could ever find it. And so, when they could not capture it, they tried to stamp it out. But the people of the land, the wise and wild ones, knew that the magic was as close as a whisper in the wind. It was in the air and under their feet. To try to stamp it out might actually be to awaken it. Chapter 1. The world will always offer a sign of hope to those looking for it. A flower growing between stones, a tight-scrolled bud on a bare winter branch. It has been this way for thousands of years. If you look to the world, hoping for hope, nature will open her palms. On the day this tale begins, Gwyn Greenwood was looking for such a sign. She was doing it while leaning out of the highest window in Tintagel Castle. In fact, it was hardly a window. It was a thin arrow slit, notched like a frown line in the stone face of the tallest tower. Dizzyingly far below, the sea crashed on rocks with a sound like a giant crushing human skulls in its fists. Beside the window, a green tendril of ivy clung in a determined fashion to the salt-blasted stones of the castle. "Ivy!" Gwyn cried. "That's it!" Surely ivy was a sign of hope, the way it grew wild and strong even in the most unfriendly places. Gwyn traced the green vein all the way down the wall to the distant clifftop at the castle's base. "Yes," she whispered. In this way, she would make her escape. Technically, it was her third escape so far today. She had been caught twice already, once trying to smuggle herself out of the kitchens in a barrel of turnips — she had almost ended up in the soup — and the second time disguised as a knight. But the armour had fallen off before she reached the drawbridge, revealing the 11-year-old girl inside the shining silver. She had been pulled from the clanking pile of metal by her father, carried upstairs, protesting, and locked in the tower. "But this time," she said, "it'll work." She cast a regretful glance at her old Roman clothes, now burning in the fire. A maid with strong arms had chucked them into the flames, saying they weren't fit for a lady, before wrestling Gwyn into a tub and setting about her with a sea sponge. After that, Gwyn had endured the indignity of being laced into a dress, all fuss and frills, and being pronounced adorable. Now that the maid was gone and she was alone, Gwyn tried to pull the dress off. It would be much easier to climb down in the light, nettle silk tunic she wore underneath. But the maid had pulled the laces tight and tied them in double knots. Gwyn would have to roll up the silly sleeves and make the best of it. "When I get to the forest, I'll find an imp to gnaw through the laces," she promised herself, before adding with relish, "Then I'll get a dragon to roast the dress completely to ashes." She poked one leg out of the arrow slit and into the empty air. This made her realize quite how big a distance there was between her and the earth. Her mouth went a little dry, but she cast her gaze to the forest beyond the rocky beach that was further up the rugged coast. It was May. The trees were greening. This was no time to be trapped in a dark prison of a castle and forced to learn the dreary art of tapestry weaving. "Silly, silly," a passing wind sprite hissed, dancing her hair around her face. "Humans aren't made for being high up in the sky. Ungainly flesh bodies." "Stop distracting me," Gwyn replied.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?